the Evolution Security Podcast.
And thank God it hit the metal grate that was in front of me, because it caused a round to kind of deflect off, and I caught a little bit of fragment in my face from that metal. But like, that would have been, dude, my head would have been pink mist, man, if it wouldn't have hit that metal at the angle that it did.
Oh man, awesome. So that clip is from a really special guest that we're super stoked about, Mr. JP Dinnell, who is currently with Echelon Front. Hey, this is Brian, of course, and I'm here with Eric and Aaron. How you guys doing?
Doing great, brother. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, glad to be here. Doing wonderful.
We're going to get right into the interview pretty quick here, but I'm going to shout out right up front about Origin Maine, because Origin Maine is rocking a Jocko Discipline Go JP Dinnell signature flavor, the Sour Apple Sniper, which is also now my favorite Go flavor. And we're going to talk about that more later with JP directly, which is very cool. That was pretty awesome to be able to do that. And of course, go online and get a discount on your Sour Apple Sniper, 10% off when you check out. Use the code EVOSEC10. And I think Eric's got something for us.
Man, I love that new flavor, man. That Sour Apple Sniper is my new favorite drink. And speaking of Origin, I've had the benefit, which we'll talk about in the accountability section. Our gym is finally opened back up. Jiu-Jitsu Dynamics, shout out to them, Will and Gene. Man, it's been incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Good to hear.
I will say this right up front, man, I have been sore, not used to the heavier rolls with the stronger folks, which is good for me. But anyway, in those classes, I've been wearing my Origin gis, one of which is the Jocko Def gi, which is probably my favorite gi right now. So just another shout out to Origin. Now, on to our other folks that support us is Tenacor, Tenacor.com. Jeff and his guys, again, we always mention these guys train themselves. Jeff being former SWAT officer here in the Pacific Northwest. Those guys train, and I just saw some footage of Jeff training at the Shooter Symposium with Craig, just getting after it more. So those guys know what gear, how gear needs to work and function and not break. So shout out to those guys for sure. Yeah, so again, go to tenacor.com and use the code EVOSEC for 10% off at checkout.
Well, guys, real quick, I do want to ask our listeners. Now, we've got thousands of listeners out there, and boy, we're really thankful for you all out there. But we really need some help in getting our ratings and our reviews up. Even if you don't use iTunes, go ahead and go out there and give us a rating. And man, it would be great if you would give us a review, give us the good, bad, the ugly. But, of course, we want the good the most. But, hey, let us know what you think of the show. And make sure, after you do that, make sure you share it with a friend. And we would really appreciate it. It helps us a lot. Well, guys, what do you think about jumping into this awesome interview with JP? This is an intense and fun interview.
Dude, this is great. This is great. I'm stoked. All right.
Let's do it.
Hey, we would like to welcome Mr. JP Dinnell to the show. How you doing today, JP?
Man, I'm wonderful. How are you guys?
Awesome. How about you guys?
Doing great.
Obviously, Eric and Aaron here chiming in as well. Real quick, JP is currently the Director of Experiential Leadership Programs for Echelon Front, and he's got quite a history. And we definitely would recommend, if you want to learn more about JP, listen to the Jocko podcast number 46 and number 246. Highly recommend. But why don't you just take, a minute or two, JP, and give us just a quick breakdown of who you are for our listeners who aren't familiar with you.
Well, I appreciate the introduction, Brian, Eric, Aaron, and Brian. Thank you for allowing me to be on your guys' podcast. I am originally from Sacramento, California. I grew up playing Navy SEALs, playing Army Ranger, playing Marine Corps, playing SWAT. I wanted to serve my country ever since I was a little boy. Both of my grandparents served in World War II. My dad's dad was on a destroyer in World War II. He actually was an old farmer from Nebraska, and I shouldn't say old because when he went into the military, he was 16 turning 17 years old because he wanted to serve. And it's just incredible what he did at such a young age. And then my mom's dad flew in the Army Air Corps, which was the Air Force before we actually officially had the Air Force. And he was a pilot, and he was a bomber pilot, and he flew in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. And it's just crazy, all the things that he was a part of and everything that he did. And so, I always grew up, just hearing stories from them and talking with them and just wanting to be in the military. I was infatuated with the Navy SEALs, and I was able to pursue that dream. I went in the Navy right after high school. I was in boot camp September 5th, 2001. And then 6 days later, 9/11 happened. And I had a contract to become a Navy SEAL. And so I was already going that route, but when 9/11 happened, our nation was drastically affected, and I knew my career was going to be drastically affected, and it was just added fuel to the fire. It was something I always wanted to do. I never envisioned quitting, or I can honestly say, there's a good amount of team guys that I know of that are all the same. They're like, I never once thought about quitting, and when I was going through BUD/S, I never once thought about quitting. There was never that thought in my mind because I was fortunate to be able to, at a young age, learn to detach and, understand the opportunity that I had in front of us. And when we're emotional, we make bad decisions. I don't know if anybody that's ever made a really good life decision when they're emotional. And fortunately, I was able to recognize that at an early age going through training. And so I didn't quit. And went through training, went through SQT training, which is our SEAL qualification training. It's the advanced training that they put you through before you check into a SEAL team. Made it through that training and checked into SEAL Team 3. I was young checking into the SEAL teams. But it was awesome. It was an amazing experience. I graduated from SQT. We go through cold weather training up in Kodiak, Alaska. I come back from that training. I was gone for like 5 weeks. Girlfriend at the time, obviously, we're young. She's, I'm just gone all the time. And, she doesn't understand it or get it. And, I come back and she's like, oh, good, you're going to be home. And I check into SEAL Team 3 on Friday. And they tell me like, hey, you're headed to an off-road Hummer driving and racing school on Sunday. You need to go buy supply, get this gear, and be here at the team by this time because you're headed out to the desert for that training. And I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. This is amazing. Think about that. I'm 19, 20 years old at the time. They're sending me to an off-road Hummer driving and racing school. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so, it was an awesome opportunity. I was very fortunate to be able to experience that and go through all that at a very young age. I had a great time in the SEAL teams, did my workup. We deployed overseas. We were doing personal security for the top dignitaries in Iraq during the election time frame. That was unique, to say the least. And then I come back and things were actually kind of getting pretty bad over in Iraq as I was coming back from that first deployment. And that's when I first met Jocko. Jocko came in to be our task unit commander, and it was awesome. It was absolutely amazing to have that type of a leader come in to our task unit and to take control of the group. And, it was a thing that he did that was very unique was he changed our name. In the military works, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. It's a phonetic alphabet for everything. And, when Jocko came in to be our task unit commander, he just changed our name. And he said, hey, we are now Task Unit Bruiser. And of course,
nice.
Of course, everyone's like, yeah,
of course.
and he did that to change our mindset, and it was just to kind of reset the standard and the mindset amongst our task unit, and it was effective. And then we went out to our first block of training out in the desert, and he was explaining to us what was going on overseas, and you think about that. Well, he was telling us the truth. And I've found over my years of in the military, working on the civilian side, and now consulting and working for Jocko and Leif for the last 4 years, is a lot of people feel like they have to hide and protect their team from the truth. And that is the absolute worst thing that you can do as a leader. And Jocko knew that. And instead, he told us the truth. And he told us how bad it was overseas. And he read us the articles and he showed us the videos. And, he said, hey, if we are lucky, this is where we will go. The worst place in the world. The enemy is changing. Therefore, we have to change the way we train. We have to change our mindset. And in order for us to be successful, we're going to have to take ownership. And that means taking ownership of everything that affects our task unit, everything that affects your platoon, everything that affects your fire team, your squad, and your jobs as an individual. Anything that affects it, we're going to take ownership. We're not going to cast blame. We're not going to point fingers. And it was really cool having a leader come in and just shift the mindset. Now, it sounds cool when I say that, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't an instant overnight change. And Jocko knew that. Now, he knew he could get a few of us on board right away. And he did. And he identified me as one of those individuals. And he pulled me aside during the training. And he's like, JP, we get done with these runs. We're doing IADs, which is immediate action drills. And we're out in the desert and we're doing these runs. And he's like, hey, JP. So I'm like, oh, shit. So I run over. I thought I did something wrong, right? And then I'm like standing at attention. He's like, relax. I was like, okay, sorry. And he's like, when we get back from this block of training, from this run of training, like the training that we're doing that night, when we get done, he goes, I need you to put JP in big, bold letters on your helmet. He goes, I always need to know where you're at. I need you to be my go-to guy. Now think about that. Jocko, this big, just intimidating leader who had a good amount of combat experience, who had a great reputation, who was a prior enlisted SEAL, who became an officer so that he could better lead the team. And he's pulling me aside. And at the time I was 21. I was 21. And he pulls me aside and he tells me that he needs me to be his go-to guy. He said, I need you to step up, be a little more aggressive. He goes, I need you to help Seth lead. I need you to get jobs done. And what
he made you important. He made you a critical member at that moment.
Yes, absolutely. And I obviously know that I wasn't the only go-to guy that Jocko had. He had a whole task unit. When he did that, he gave me ownership. And he was giving me this sense of pride. And he knew that if he asked me to go do something, or Seth asked me to go do something, if I encountered any sort of problem along the way, I was going to find some solution to fixing that. And so, Jocko did that to our task unit, and it changed the way we thought about everything. It changed how we operated, how we worked. I mean, we outperformed every other task unit on the West Coast SEAL teams, and we were selected to go to Ramadi. And it was a very powerful opportunity for us. And I remember I turned 23 right before we deployed, and I got put in a position of leadership. I was going to be our lead sniper, our lead point man, and I was our leading petty officer for a small group that was headed out to the eastern side of Ramadi to work out of a forward operating base. And it was just incredible to, just to have that opportunity, to be in that position of influence and to be in that position of service, to be able to help lead operations and plan operations. I mean, it was incredible. Chris Kyle was my counterpart. He was the lead sniper and point man in Charlie Platoon, and I was a lead sniper and point man in Delta Platoon. So Charlie Platoon and Delta Platoon, we were a part of Task Unit Bruiser. We worked under Jocko. So Chris and I were equals. And, if anybody's read his book or watched his movie, they tease him about the young sniper that was catching up to him. That was me when I was 23 years old.
Nice. I love backstory.
Yeah, it's unique, right?
Yeah.
A unique opportunity. And it wasn't because of anything that I did as an individual. It's what we were able to do as a team. I wasn't able to do what I did as a sniper if it wasn't for the machine gunners, if it wasn't for the Iraqi soldiers that we were working with, if it wasn't for the comms guys, the medics, the leadership. I mean, we all worked together as a team, and we all understood how important we were. And we also all understood that the more we learned to work together, the more of a dominating force that we could be. And the more of a dominating force that we could be, that means that there was more enemies that we could hunt. And that's what we did when we got to Ramadi, is we started hunting the enemy. They weren't used to that. They weren't used to anybody actually going out there and hunting them down and tracking them. And that's what we started to do. We took the fight to those just savages. And
right. Versus responding to some bombings or some uprising, you actually went and sought them out in their resting time.
Yeah, well, we went to when we went to Ramadi and we started pushing through the Malab district. There was an estimated force of 4,000 to 5,000 enemy fighters in that region, and we started literally fighting from house to house. We cleared that whole area. And we set up combat outposts to where we could live and fight within the city. We could support the innocent Iraqis that were there. And we could also plant our flag and let those insurgent fighters know that we weren't leaving. And when we did that, it changed the tide. Now, there's a lot of enemy fighters to have been killed. And as much fun as that is, I mean, I'm a gunfighter. I love combat. I love gunfights. There are bad, evil people that need to be eliminated. There's no doubt about that. But that's not how you win long term. That is part of the solution for sure. Don't get me wrong. But the long-term winning solution is eliminating enemy fighters, pushing them out of that region, and then giving the local populace ownership, giving the local soldiers ownership, and giving the local police ownership of their neighborhoods, of the relationships, and of them being able to take control of it. And when we did that, and the Iraqi soldiers were able to take ownership, and the innocent Iraqi families and the police officers were being able to be trained and equip and recruit, and they were able to eliminate and push out the bad apples within the group. They were able to stand up against those enemy fighters. And when the enemy fighters saw that they couldn't do what they were doing before, guess what? They're cowards. They don't actually like a legitimate fight. And they fled. They fled to other regions. And they used what we did in Ramadi as a template for all the other major areas. And it was crazy. A year after we left, Ramadi ended up becoming one of the safest areas in all of Iraq. And when we were there, it was the most deadly and dangerous neighborhood in the world.
Think about that, though. Think about if you were being attacked by an enemy force in your neighborhood that you live in, mm-hmm. and they actually set up camp and planted flags. Think about how that would mess with you. That's an amazing thing to hear, because that's the kind of stuff you don't hear or see on TV. You don't know about that, and just how that would psychologically just ruin their drive, man.
Yep.
That's well, and JP, this is Eric here. One of the things that I'm at least aware of is that your guys' change in tactics over there was a vast shift. And there's no question. I was in Iraq in 2007, and then in also 2008, and it was amazing how much more safe it was than when I was there as a soldier earlier in the war. It was night and day. As a matter of fact, I think because of what you guys were doing and the subsequent units, that Iraq was feeling very safe.
Yes.
My deployments and those
yes,
times.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I want to be, not again, because obviously I wasn't clear, and I just realized as you said something, I wasn't clear. It wasn't just what we as Task Unit Bruiser did. It's what we did as Americans, the soldiers, Marines, and sailors working together. Those soldiers that we were working with did the bulk of the lifting, the bulk of the fighting. They did the bulk of the work over there. And the Marines that were attached to them, same. We were there to support them. And that was what was really cool, is when we got there, Seth and Leif and Jocko, They figured out, okay, hey, this is what we need to be doing. This is why, check. And then they sat us down and they said, hey, this is what we need to be doing. This is why we need to be doing it, guys. How do you want to support these soldiers and Marines? And again, when they did that, guess what they were doing? They're giving us ownership. They were giving us the ability to come up with a plan. And when you give your team or an individual on the team the ability to come up with the how, you explain to them what they need to be doing. You give them the why. As we all know, the why drives everything. You give them the what and the why, and you allow them to come up with the how. And maybe you kind of help them come up with the how. Maybe it's a new team member, and they don't know how to do something properly, but you help them, and it's their idea. You're giving them ownership. You're giving them a sense of purpose. And that's what they did to us. They said, hey, we're going to be setting up these combat outposts. These soldiers and Marines are going to be building combat outposts. What can we do to support them? How do you guys want to support them? And Chris, Kyle, myself, other snipers, other individuals, we knew that we could set up sniper overwatches. We knew that we could secure the area. We could secure the perimeter as they were building. And we're like, well, we could do this. This is how we could do it, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? We came up with plans, and our leadership said, awesome, let's do that. Now, could they have came up with probably better plans? For sure. But it would have been their plan that they would have been dictating to us. The most effective plans are the plans that your team has ownership over and that they are able to execute. And that's what they empowered us with in Ramadi. And, we were able to make a massive impact on the battlefield. And again, when I say we, it's the soldiers, Marines, and sailors working together, because those soldiers were so incredibly brave. They brought in tanks. They brought in a new strategy. And they came to our aid every single time we needed it. And there was times that they needed us, and guess what? We came to their aid no matter what was going on, where they were at, what the situation was. I mean, there was multiple times that we knew that there were soldiers and Marines pinned down, and we would literally fight our way to get there, from building to building, rooftop to rooftop, fighting from courtyards to alleyways against multiple enemy fighters to get to those soldiers and Marines, so that we could help set security, we could eliminate enemy fighters, we could call in the CASVACs, we could call in the quick reactionary force, and then we would just wreak havoc on those enemy fighters. And we were able to do that because we were working together. We took the time to build relationships and bridge the gaps. I mean, think about it. I mean, you guys are service members. You understand the natural silos that occur between soldiers, Marines, and sailors. It's ridiculous. And in combat, it's even worse. But what I've noticed is, and it's unfortunate, is when you see service members talking crap on other service members on social media, I instantly know, oh, that guy has actually probably never done anything.
That is definitely typical.
The one that's crowing the loudest has the least to share.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, JP, if I can kind of hit on that real quick, and then I got a couple of comments about Echelon Front, and then I want to circle back just a little bit to your time as a newer sniper in the SEAL teams. My son is a Marine, and so he originally thought, he's like, Dad, are you going to be mad at me for joining Marines? I said, hell no, son. I love the Marine Corps. And so every now and then he'll tell me stories about some of the Marines in his unit talking shit about the Navy or the Army. And especially when they talk shit about the Army, he's like, hey, my dad's an Army vet. I'd appreciate, that you give the Army a little more respect. Mm-hmm. We're all in this together. I was so proud of him for saying it because he's a young Marine. And but yeah, one thing is certain is that it is fully a part of teamwork. You said building relationships, something I keyed in on. Of course, Echelon Fronts, one of the key tenets of your guys' company is extreme ownership, and I have to say, partially one of the reasons we have this show is because of that book.
That's awesome, man.
The start of the process in my head and bringing in my brother and Brian is partially due to what that book and the follow-on books that Jocko wrote. The amazing influence that you guys in Echelon Front has have had on countless individuals. It's pretty amazing. I just wanted to give you guys a shout out for that.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm very thankful to be a part of this team. And, it's absolutely incredible when I kind of sit back and I look at everything that Jocko and Leif have created and now we have created as a team as we've worked with companies all across the world. And the awesome thing to that is, that I've always loved about Jocko and Leif is, there are people that, will come to the trainings or read the book and they're like, hey, I'm actually doing this, this training at my company. Like, so people will come to the muster and then they go back to their company to basically try to retrain the material. And that used to really piss me off because I'm like, hey, that's not cool. Like, you shouldn't be doing that in my mind. I'm thinking that I remember I made a comment and Jocko and Leif both said, that's awesome. And I was like, oh, okay. And they could, and they're like, and Jocko's like, that's awesome. Because that means that people are taking these principles and they're trying to apply them to their organizations. He goes, they're trying to change the culture. They're trying to empower people to lead. They're trying to build relationships. He goes, the world is only going to be a better place if people continue to do what we've been teaching. And what we're teaching isn't anything new. It's nothing that we made up. It's just a different way that we portray it. It's a different way that we relay it to the world based off of our experiences. And I thought that was really cool because that means, and that was at the very beginning, at the first muster I was at. And, that was when I was like, man, I am all in because it told me everything I needed to know about the intentions of Jocko and Leif. Now I've known them for years. I mean, Leif and I went through SQT together, the SEAL qualification training back in 2002, 2003. We went through that training together and I've known them for a long time, but just to know their intentions on the business side was awesome. And then I hear stories like you just shared. It's like, hey, this is, that book is a motivation for us to do this and to do this and to do that. And it's just awesome to see the impact. And now, we have EF Online, which is our online leadership training program where, it's crazy. I think it's like $24 the first month, and then it's $13 a month. And then you have access to all of our content, all of our trainings online every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Jocko and Leif or Jocko and another team member or whoever, somebody on the EF team is doing a live 1-hour training with members of the EF Online community, Q&A, working through problems. We have a community and a website that we built through EF Online to where it's like a combo of LinkedIn and Facebook where you can actually interact with other leaders and ask questions and problems. And then now you have like 100 people chiming in with like, hey, you know what? Actually, I've been in this industry for 20 years. This is what we've been working through. This is how we solved that problem specifically. So, I mean, the network, it's incredible. The training that you get from Jocko and Leif is incredible. And now and so then as we build that program, we're building certification programs to where individuals can go through different layers of training that we provide to have the ability to be able to be a facilitator and bring it back to your company and bring it back to your organization. Because maybe your company can't afford to bring Echelon front end to work with them. That's fine. But you know what? A company should be able to afford $13 a month, right? And so if they can do that for a couple of their key employees, and then they go through different layers of training with us, they then are qualified to bring the material back to the company, and we give them a guideline to go through, and we help you walk through how you retrain the material to your team. Because, at the end of the day, we want companies to win. That's what we want. And it's pretty awesome to be able to be a part of all that.
Well, and that's something that I really, having been to a live event and, having, been a podcast listener for quite a while and all that, there's definitely people out there who say, oh yeah, well, you're a Jocko fanboy or this or that, and it's like, call me whatever you want. It's changed my life. And I know for a fact that, Jocko does this because he wants people to live better lives. And the fact that people are actually getting, what they get out of it and continuing to take that into other areas of their life is just, it's worth every moment that I've ever spent listening, watching, reading of any of the material. It's spectacular.
I agree. I agree with everything that you just said. And I always find it unique when other people will say what you just said, like, oh, Jocko fanboy or all this other stuff. And you know what it is, Brian? It's people's ego. It is their ego 100% getting in the way, because they see someone like Jocko, someone like Leif, someone like Dave Burke. They see them as somebody that they would like to be like. They would love to have that discipline. JP. You know what I mean? They would love to be that disciplined. They would love to have their life together. They would love to be successful like those guys are, but they don't believe that they can. And then when they see someone like you, Brian, who is reading the book, going to the events, listening to the podcast, and you're applying the principles to your life, guess what? You're now a threat to them as well, because you are doing something to better who you are. You're doing something to better your environment, your community, your family, your friends. And they see that as a threat because they know they will never have the balls to take action like you are. And the only thing that they can do is go, oh, you're just a little fanboy. And you're like, yeah, you're right. I am.
Yeah. And, regardless of the little like inner warmth it gives me to know I'm a threat to them, it's actually, it's the biggest part is how big a threat I am to the old me.
Oh, yeah.
I shoved that guy out of the room, man.
Oh, yeah. I can relate with that, man. I love it. I love how it just makes me smile. I'm sitting here just smiling, thinking, I'm like, man, I love this podcast because we are so aligned with our thought process and what you guys stand for and what you guys do. I was checking out your Instagram a little bit, and obviously us being aligned with Origin and Jocko Fuel and with what you guys do for jiu-jitsu and self-defense and shooting and everything. But what you just said, I was like, okay, these are my people. As much as it warms my soul knowing I'm a threat to them, that is a good feeling. It is a good feeling to know that other humans are threatened by you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That's good stuff, man.
Awesome.
Well, JP, let's circle back a little bit back to your time as a younger SEAL, because I know some of our audience members would like to hear a little bit more about that. What in your path pushed you to becoming a sniper? Was that something that you wanted to do when you first got into the teams? Was that something that was kind of shaped in you by your leadership? How did that happen?
Yeah, so being a sniper is something that I always wanted to go that route. Ever when I checked, before the military. I mean, when I was young, I used to set up sniper. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was setting up sniper hide sites, and I was urban, like it was like setting up little shooting stations in the shadows, in my grandparents' barn, in our garage, from an elevated position off the street, and just like using things for deception. Like I was doing that when I was a kid, which is crazy when I think about that. And so when I was in the military, it was something I wanted to do. I knew about snipers, I was drawn to that. And then in our task unit, we do our first workup, and I had two guys that were in my platoon that were snipers that I really looked up to. And they were, they kind of helped guide me and teach me a little bit about what they did. And, you have Chris Kyle, who's in your task unit, and, you hear about what he did in Fallujah, on our first deployment. I'm hearing about it. And we came back from that deployment, and they said, there's an opportunity to go to sniper school. And before I could even raise my hand, they're like, Dinnell, you're going. And I was like, oh, sweet baby Jesus.
You got picked. Yeah, like that guy.
Yeah. And so it was cool. I don't know if some of the other old guys had some say in it or what, but I just remember when they said I was going, I could not have been happier. And the other group of snipers that I went with, these are all my buddies. These are my bros. So we're going through sniper school together, and sniper school is difficult. It's a hard school. And it was, it was extremely rewarding. And I was just I was able to be in that position to attend that training. And, I took it very serious, and I got a lot from it. And, I also took the talk that Jocko gave our task unit very seriously as well. And, I understood how important my role as a sniper was going to be. And I knew that, man, I mean, when you're a sniper, there's a lot of pressure on you. And if you make the wrong call, if you take the wrong shot, you ruin the reputation that your group has. I mean, you kill someone that's not supposed to be killed, everyone forgets about all the other good stuff you've done. And, there's consequences to your actions, and your actions as an individual can affect the whole organization. And that weighed heavily on me. And I took my training very, very serious.
Well, and being a sniper, one of the things that I think a lot of individuals might envision a sniper doing is just simply killing the bad guy. Well, of course, that's a part of it. But the amazing position of the sniper as an overwatch is insurmountable to understand in many cases. Would you agree with that? I know you being a sniper yourself, but to me, that's just one of the most amazing parts of what a sniper team provides is that cover.
Yeah, it is extremely important. There was times where we'd go in before the groups and do reconnaissance of the areas and studies of the area, and you're by yourself with like one or two other people. You don't have a large team with you, but you're going in to provide cover, to do recon, which is providing cover for people that are going to be coming in that area. I mean, there was times that we had to make some very difficult shots, and you're doing that to keep your teammates safe, to keep innocent Iraqis safe, to keep children safe. When these horrible people were using when they're using kids as human shields, that's a difficult thing to work through. And I'm just very thankful that our guys were as good as they were, and we had the ability to make shots, make decisions, and keep those kids safe, and keep the Iraqi families safe, keep those soldiers and Marines down on the ground safe. It was a heavy burden, but it was a burden that I am so thankful I had the opportunity to carry.
Well, we're thankful that young men like you and your team members make that decision, because you guys obviously the tip of the spear, and it means a lot to all of us that believe in the U.S. military. But it's just awesome that we have guys like you out there, JP. So thank you very much for that service.
I appreciate it. It was really cool also on that deployment to be able to work with the other snipers, to learn from these soldiers and Marines, how they did things. I mean, when we showed up, these guys had been in combat every single day for 14 months from this National Guard unit. And so for us to be able to kind of sit and listen and talk and learn from them was humbling. And to know that we were there to support them was incredible. And then a month later, the 1-1 AD replaced them. AD stands for Armored Division. As you guys know, those are tanks. And,
Yep.
Those, I personally believe that is the most amazing invention known to mankind is a M1 Abram tank, because those guys came to our aid so many times. And, the most effective counter sniper to a enemy sniper, a lot of people were like, like what sniper rifle? And I'm like, no. Now, when I was young and naive, I would say, oh, my 300 Win Mag, because I played a good amount of cat and mouse games with some enemy snipers, and didn't work out too well for them. But in reality, the greatest counter sniper rifle was that M1 Abram, when you're able to direct them into the building that those enemy snipers are in, and you just see the turret turn towards that building, and then it's just like, and they just start unloading, and that building just flattens. You're like, oh, that's sweet. That is so legit.
Nothing like a 120 millimeter Sabo round, huh?
Come on, baby. Yeah, and it was cool because we also had I'm drawing a blank. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark 25. which was our 7.62 sniper rifle. And then we had Mark 11, which was a 5.56 sniper rifle. It was like it was a sexy little version of the M4. And that gun was just garbage compared to the SR-25 and the 300 Win Mag. But we had a bunch of ammo for it. I mean, real nice that, five.
Like the 77 grain special ball.
Yeah, the ammo that I wish I had now as a civilian.
Yeah, they're probably OTMs. Yeah,
yeah.
They're technically not a hollow point. They're yeah,
yeah, because what? Yeah, we can get into that another time. But so I remember talking with some of the Army snipers that lived in the same building. So we lived in an old blown out building. We were at Forward Operating Base, Camp Corregidor, and it was the building we lived in was called Full Metal Jacket, and yeah, it was an old blown out building that we built up the walls with sandbags and plywood, and it was dirt floors. And I mean, it was awesome living. It was so badass. I mean, because if you're going to have a shitty deployment, you might as well have everything be shitty just to keep you in that mode. And I mean, it was pretty legit. It was like the Wild Wild West. And I remember I was sitting talking with one of the snipers, and I was talking with what they were shooting, and they looked at the ammo, and I was like, hold on. And I went and got a box, just a little box, 20 rounds of the 5.56 ammo that we had. And this guy's reaction when I said, can you use this? He's like, where'd you get that? and it was seriously like I pulled out like a brick of gold, right? Like a brick of gold. And I showed it to him, and I was like, I handed it to him, and he like pulls the rounds out, and he's like rolling it in his fingers and like looking at it. And I said, can you use it? And he goes, yeah. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And I didn't think about it.
Garbage to you, and to him, it's the best thing he could ever have dreamt of.
Yes, because you know what they were using.
Oh,
it was just like whatever issued ball 5.56.
855.
Yeah, exactly. It's stuff that we use out on the range, right? And they're like, oh, cool, we have extra range ammo. Let's bring it on deployment for our snipers, because that makes sense. Freaking anyway. And so like I go back to my room, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I'm not going to use this. I refuse to use this. And you know what? If I need to use it and I don't have it, I'll just call, you know what I mean? Like we'll just call back to the major base, and they'll send it over on a convoy. So I went and grabbed the cases, like the wooden cases full of ammo of it that was in my room, and brought it over to them. And, it was just seeing their reaction and how stoked these guys was the coolest thing ever. Think about like just from the aspect of us being able to build a relationship with these guys.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. And you just strengthened that bond right there.
Well, and JP, I can add to that and I'm assuming that's what you were providing them was the 77 grain special ball stuff. What is it? The Mark 262 maybe. I may have that wrong. No matter, but I imagine that change in ammo really affected their capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows how many bad guys suffered because of
that. I hope every single one.
Yeah. That's as I was sitting there thinking of that. You provided them that many cases of that really effective ammo, because that stuff is incredible. I mean, put through a accurized M4 platform, the Army was wreaking havoc with that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, these guys were so stoked, and these guys they were good. They're just good soldiers, good humans. They became our friends. Like we were exchanging books back and forth between each other, and like, hey, if I done reading this book, check out this book, and it was just to have I felt bad that I didn't know that sooner, because I would have given that to them right at the beginning, day one. But it was really cool. And I do know that those guys were able to be more efficient and more effective with that ammo. And, for us, it was easy to be able to do. And it was really cool. Just how
that's a
those
cool
guys were.
story.
And, and they shared it with their leadership, and their leadership was so thankful, which as that continued to grow and go up the chain of command, it only strengthened the bonds for us to be able to work together and conduct missions.
That's awesome. And that's what that kind of situation brings about is, you provide a little ammo, and next thing you know, you got guys willing to do whatever they need to help.
And how many times were those guys covering our movements? So why would I not want them to have the best ammo possible?
Yeah, that's a cool story, JP. And I have to admit, right before the ammo crunch, I was able to get a couple of cases. A case of that for my personal AR. Ooh. So I do love that.
Yeah, that's legit.
Nice. Well, hey, I'm just gonna, since we're kind of doing this, we're not super heavy gearheads. There's a lot of shows that talk all about gear, but just because you're bringing up the Mark 25, I've been a former FFL, did hundreds of gun shows, and there's always, we always joke about the Mark 25 being the $5,000 308. And the only reason they charge the Army $5,000 is so that they can charge the civilian. They charge the same in the civilian market so that they can charge the Army that much. Because we didn't poo-poo it, but we always thought it was overpriced for what it was. But it sounds like you actually really enjoyed that weapon.
Well, so I really enjoyed that weapon for a few reasons. One, it's all I kind of knew at the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So, and I was trained and equipped with it properly. And for in an urban environment, you also have to think of the situation that we were in. I was our point man. And so walking point, it was ideal if I had a weapon that, I could carry 20 rounds. I could go semi-auto. I could instinctively shoot in a close quarters combat situation and be effective with it, And so as we were doing our workup, not only did I do my workup with my M4 for all of our close quarters combat training, but I also would do runs with the SR25 to where, I'm shooting over the scope, and I had my little point of reference where I'm doing instinctual shooting within a room, and I'm still making headshots and body shots just as fast as I could with my M4. So knowing that I could patrol, clear a building, and set up an overwatch with one weapon, that's effective. Now, the problem with that weapon was the dust cover. Did you guys ever experience any malfunctions because of the dust cover?
No.
Yes, that was a big thing.
Now, my rifle wasn't a Knight's either, so there may
okay. All right. Well, so we were having some issues with the dust cover, and it was starting to cause some malfunctions. And there's actually one time, talk about just a perfect storm for everything to happen wrong. We were in a building that we knew was going to be a really bad area. We came into this location. We set up Overwatch. They're going to be doing their clearance, and everything was just super off. Like, it just felt off. We just knew it was going to be a bad situation. And the sunrise comes, the call to prayer goes on, and there's no movement in the area where we're at, which is not normal, right? At least there's some movement. And we knew something was up because this building was, kind of cleaned out. And so we were very slow, methodical with our search to make sure the building wasn't rigged to blow. We checked the surrounding buildings. A lot of them were clear and empty. And we're like, okay, well, guess what, boys? It's coming. Like, we knew it was coming. And, and that was a day where, I mentioned earlier, just them using kids as human shields. Like, it was this day that escalated to that point. And so our position started to get attacked, and we're engaging enemy fighters, and there's enemy snipers, and there's a good amount of movement around us. I mean, we shot Carl Gustav rockets from the rooftop. Our guys were throwing grenades from the rooftop to other courtyards because guys were shooting up towards the building from the courtyards, from the doors down in the surrounding houses as they were able to move and get close to us. We shot all of our rockets that we brought, and guys were starting to run low on ammo. And that's how much sustained gunfights that we had been in. And I mean, to the point where our machine gunners were like, hey, I'm starting to kind of get low on ammo. The snipers were the same. We shot every rocket. Guys up on the rooftops had thrown all their grenades. And so we made the call like, hey, we're going to have to collapse security, head back to a combat outpost, get resupplied, and then, find our way back or find another location to get set up in. And we make the call. I make the call to collapse security. And as that happened, a round came in through the window of the room that I was in. And thank God it hit the metal grate that was in front of me, because it caused a round to kind of deflect off. And I caught a little bit of fragment in my face from that metal. But like that would have been, dude, my head would have been pink mist, man, if it wouldn't have hit that metal at the angle that it did. And that round hits that wall, and I'm in this small room that's empty, and it's, concrete walls and floors, and it's just that loud echo. And I fall back and to kind of like, just hit the ground, and I'm like laying on my back, and I try to get close to the window. And, these enemy fighters are smart. They had kind of started to take on our tactics where if we would engage a vehicle, a sniper, there's times where I would, engage a driver, and then our machine gun would open up into the car, and we'd do the same thing. And, buildings that we were taking shots into. And so instantly enemy machine gun fires coming in the room. And it is so loud. I just remember how loud it was. And just, the bullets are just cracking against the walls. The concrete's flying up in that room. And I'm down up against the window. And, I eventually, I actually try to get my periscope out, and I'm trying to look and scan and see what's going on. And I remember looking at my rifle that is like kind of laying on my belly. It was left side down, and I had a hard malfunction, like real hard. And I'm like trying to clear it, and I can't clear it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me right now. And so I'm working through all that. And then I heard a very familiar sound that I was used to, but it was in the distance. And it was like this, oh shit feeling. And I realized that I had been left behind. So the guys collapsed security and they rolled out. They obviously screwed up the head count. And as they were leaving down this alleyway, trying to make their way back to the combat outpost, they got ambushed and were in a huge gunfight. And they were a couple hundred yards away from me. And the building that I was in was still being attacked by enemy fighters. And we knew that they were trying to close in on that position in that building. And it was just one of those situations that was just getting worse and worse by the minute. And I make my way out of the room. I remember it was one of those things where I was like looking at the door, and I'm like pushed against the wall, and I'm like, okay, I can push myself as hard as I can, and then like scramble, crawl, then jump out the door into the hallway. And I did that. And like, you think it's going to be all sexy when you do it. And it was like, I just ate shit. Like, I just remember I ate shit getting out of that room. And like, it hurt. It hurt so bad trying to get out of that room because everything's just hard. It's just all concrete, right? And it was just one of those things where everyone always thinks it's all going to be like the sexy, smooth slide, or you're going to do what? No, not even close to that. And I make my way out, and I'm like trying to work on my rifle. I get down to the courtyard, and I realize that I can't key up my radio. So for whatever reason, I had turned off my radio when I was on my back, because my radio was on my back as well as my gear. And, it was a rookie move. We were moving our gear around, and, the radios used to be in the front, but then when you're carrying more and more ammo, you're trying to find space for more ammo. So the radio goes to the side, then it kind of goes to the back. And it was, whatever, it was in a bad position. And so I'm down to my pistol. I have my pistol out, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I can, the building's still being shot up. My guys are in a gunfight. And I just remember thinking, okay, if I get into the courtyard, if I can get into this section of the courtyard, I can get into this corner. I can take my body armor off. I can get to my radio, put the body armor back on. I can see the gate. If somebody comes through the gate, I have my pistol. Like, okay, I'm going to get some pistol kills. I remember like thinking about that. I'm like, cool, I'm going to get some pistol kills. This will be cool. Like, I'm just like,
that's not a good plan.
No, it's not an ideal plan. But it's like, hey, if I can get a couple pistol kills, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make the best of the situation, Brian. Come on, man.
Fair enough.
And, yes, but I agree. Not ideal. I agree with this statement 100%. And so, and again, I'm young. I think I'm Superman at this time in my life. And anyways, get the radio, get my body armor back on, get the radio fixed. And I radio the guys and I'm like, hey, you guys left me back at the target. And there are some other keywords that were thrown in there as well. And
I can imagine.
I was a little fired up at that time. All right, Eric. And I'm sure you and Brian and Eric can understand that. And I'm young. I'm immature. We're been in this massive gunfight. I've been left behind. I didn't do a good job of controlling my emotions. And I hear Seth key back up on the radio, and he says, "Roger that. We're headed your way." And I could hear the machine gun fire in the radio because they're in this gunfight. And they start pushing their way back towards me, and they get close. And I get on the radio, and we're talking back and forth. And I say, "Lay down cover fire on the north side of the alleyway. I'm gonna pop smoke. I'm gonna come out on the south side of the alley." And so two of the guys get side by side, Mikey and one of the other machine gunners, and they start laying down just massive fire with their machine guns. And I kind of peek my head out, and I just haul ass, like I am running as fast as I can to get back to them. And I just remember the look on all their faces when they see me like getting close to them. It was like oh my gosh, how do we leave them? And then, why is he running with his pistol in his hand? I was holding my rifle on my left, and I'm running with my pistol pointing straight up, right? And like I get back to the guys, we secure a courtyard, we get my rifle back up, I put my pistol away, we're patrolling back, and I just remember looking at the guys like, we're a small group. They're like, there's less than 10 of us. Like, how do you screw up that head count? And I remember looking at Seth, just thinking like, I'm your point man. Like, who are you following? Like, who had the route back? And Mikey was always by my side. He was my machine gunner who was always by me. And I'm thinking like, who is Mikey walking alongside? And so we get back and we resupply. We call it the other units that were out there were massive gunfights, a bunch of casualties. They were able to finish the clearance. They pushed back. And it was one of those, we debriefed it. And I just remember like, I was kind of trying to figure out what in the hell happened. And I just remember being super pissed off and saying things that I shouldn't have said to the guys. And, guys were apologetic, obviously. And I just remember I went back into my room and I sat down. I was just like looking at my gear and I was thinking about everything that happened. And it was a big slap across the face because when I kind of detached and was able to calm down a little bit, I realized like, man, that was my fault. That was 100% my fault. Like, why was my radio in an area that could be compromised like that, where I couldn't reach it? I made the call for us to collapse security. I know what our standard operating procedures are when it comes to collapsing security. I should have been aware of my surroundings, but instead I was focused on myself and what was going on in my little world at that time. And there's so many things that if I would have done it differently, it would have changed the environment. And so I talked to the guys and I apologized. And, the guy that screwed up the head count was like, bro, that's on me. Like, gives me this big bro hug. He's like, dude, I am so sorry. He's like, I won't ever let that happen again. And, Mikey's apologizing, and Seth was like, guys, they're like, this is my responsibility. Like, we're never going to leave without a good head count. And there's a lot of things that were going on, and, we need to practice, and so we started coming up with solutions as to what we were going to do to fix the problem that had arose. And so that was a crazy situation. And it wasn't like that was just a unique situation. I mean, our deployment was a lot of days like that, where, you're dragging guys out of the street and you're trying to get them to a CASEVAC, and, you're trying to fight through dragging someone out of the street, and you're trying to save his life and stop the bleeding. And, you get to a situation where the medics start working on them and you think you're done. And then next thing you know, the LT is like, JP, I need you on the rooftop. There's multiple enemy fighters moving in on our position. And you're like, Roger that. So now I'm like sprinting up to the rooftop and like, trying to get, just a plan put in place with the guys and figuring out what's going on. And you're dealing with the civilians that live in the house and, trying to keep the kids safe and the women safe and trying to get the men to help you and move stuff around. I mean, it was insane every single day. Every single day it was like that. And it was crazy. And so I know it's kind of a random story based off what you asked about the.
No, I'm glad you shared that, actually.
That was the last time I used the Mark 25, though. I'm sorry, the SR 25.
Yep, I keep doing that too. Yeah, the rifles I own are SR 25 platform, not actual SR 25s.
Yeah, that was the last time I used it because it happened, and so I started, only using my 300 Win Mag, which is a beautiful weapon, a beautiful platform, very effective in any environment, especially an urban environment. And, and then I would also carry the Mark 46 machine gun. So I was a machine gunner as well. And there's times that I have my I have my 300 Win Mag on my back, slung, and I was carrying the Mark 46 with 600 to 800 rounds on me. And then there's times where, not ideal, but I knew Mikey had my back and he was right alongside me and we had other machine gunners. There's some pictures of me and videos of me patrolling as our point man with the bolt action 300 Win Mag. Go ahead and get you some.
Yeah. Well, I got to back you up just a little bit. Just you got to pleasure me for a second and tell me, when your SR-25 was hard malfunctioned and down, what was the pistol you were basing your life on?
Yeah,
SIG 226.
Oh, thank you. I just needed you to point that out to my other teammates here.
Yeah, we're Glock guys, so he always
there's
likes
a little
to
SIG
dig in when he
Glock
can
controversy
with the SIG.
going on between us.
Oh, yeah. SIG all day. Come on, man.
Yep, right.
But ask Brian what he's been shooting when we've been doing our drills together recently.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah. Hey, Glocks are great guns. However, in Ramadi, I'm sure that plastic gun probably would have melted. We needed, to withhold.
Yeah, because it's way hotter than inside a dishwasher over there. I'll tell you that.
Touche.
Now, hey, as much crap that I have talked on Glocks over the years, it pains me to admit this, but I was forced to buy a Glock this year.
Yeah.
What did you get?
Glock 17.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
That's my primary for both competition and training, but then carry a 19 as my primary. Most of us carry a 19.
Yeah, so I got the Glock 17 because went through a reserve police officer program, and that is their duty weapon. And
Gotcha.
so had to be qualified in that same gun. So I bought that, shot the qual with it, and it was pretty funny because I know we talked before the podcast how I used to do a good amount of shooting in the teams. I was in charge of all the CQB. I was one of the lead instructors in charge of all the close quarters combat, urban warfare, and marksmanship training for all the West Coast SEALs. So used to shoot a lot, and then I had a little consulting shooting company that I started up as well. And, I've only shot SIG. I have the SIG 226, SIG 320 compact, SIG 320 full size. Love those guns. Bought this Glock, never shot it, went and shot the qual and shot 100%. And they were like, "You've never shot this gun before?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Okay, check." And so it was. Hey, all joking aside, that's a good gun. Glock 17 is a good gun. I just love the SIG 226. I love the SIG 320. The 320 compact is what I carry for concealed carry. It has 15 rounds. I can even throw the 17 round mag in it, a 21 round mag in it, and still concealed carry. So it's pretty legit.
Nice.
And all of our joking aside, SIG does make incredible, very reliable. I mean, they are great guns. They
and that's what I always tell people is they're like, SIG or Glock? And I say, well, you know what? I've always shot SIG. That's all I know. But the military wouldn't use Glock if they were horrible, right? Law enforcement wouldn't use them if they're horrible. I was like, to me, that's a shooter's preference. And I tell people all the time,
absolutely.
before you go buy a pistol, if you have a friend that has different guns, go shooting with them and see which one you like. If you don't, go to a shooting range and rent the common guns that you might want to buy and spend a couple hours shooting each one, see what one fits well in your hand, see which one works well for, when you're hitting the magazine release, the slide release, do you want a safety, all these things. You want single action, double action, go shoot with somebody who knows enough to give you the basics if you can't afford like lessons. Now, if you can afford lessons, you should always do that, obviously. Go shoot with somebody who's a professional so that they can teach you the basics so that you can actually give an evaluation with the good information in front of you. But go try them out and see what you like. And I have buddies that they shoot SIGs and they're like, yeah, these SIGs are great. But for whatever reason, they shoot better when they shoot a Glock. It's weird. I don't understand that. If you guys can figure that one out, let me know.
Yeah, I certainly think that there's an ergonomics difference between certain pistols, and I think to me the Glock points naturally. But I can't agree with you more. Some people just shoot other pistols better and don't lend well to the Glock. So yeah, it's definitely, we joke back and forth all the time as partners, but definitely between the two, those and I wouldn't say just between the two. I like Smith & Wesson M&P series. Mm-hmm. If I didn't shoot Glock, that'd probably be what I lean towards would be the M&P series. But we just want people to get a quality pistol, and you hit it on the head. Go get some training. We kind of like to say, hey, save your money instead of just going and burning a lot of ammo. Get you 1,000 rounds and find you a tier 1 or a defensive 1 pistol course. You'll be better for it if you do it that way.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Hey JP, it's Aaron here. Here's a 2-tier question. It's fun that we're now jovial about the Glocks and the SIGs. So this brings another question up. So 2 things. What kind of rifle are you using? What do you prefer when you get to go do some long-range shooting? And then for anyone that is wanting to get into long-range shooting, what would you recommend them to put together in a basic rig?
Ooh, now you're getting all into the nuts and bolts and the technical aspect that I am I struggle with. I tell people all the time I am decent at shooting. I'm okay at instructing. I'm horrible at knowing the technical aspects of it. But the long range rifle that I have, a buddy built for me. It's a beautiful rifle. It's 6.5 Creedmoor. It's a Remington 700 Action, and it's an Accuracy International chassis. It is a beautiful gun. And
man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is a half minute of angle gun that my buddy built, and he built it for me, and I couldn't be more happy with that weapon. I enjoy shooting 6.5 Creedmoor because I guess it would be a little bit more of the realm of the answer that I gave you guys earlier when you were asking about the SR25. It's what I know. It's what I've known since I got out, because when I was in the teams as an instructor, I didn't do a lot of long range shooting because I had kind of transitioned over to my primary focus was the CQC and the urban warfare training and helping build up the marksmanship cell. So it was all rifle pistol. And so that was kind of like my main focus. And, I didn't do a lot. I didn't do as much shooting in the teams as I would have liked to towards the end, just because I had different priorities that were going on. But when I got out and I got back into shooting, I had the opportunity. My buddy Steve Arian, who has a company called Gray Fox Industries, they're a training company. And he was like, hey, I'm helping out my other buddy's company. We're teaching some long range shooting. Would you like to come out and be an instructor? And I'm like, man, it's literally been, I can't even tell you how many years since I've been on the gun. He's like, all right, cool. Just come out a day early. We'll run through everything. He goes, it's not like you don't know how to shoot. It's not like you don't know how to teach. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I just was honest. I'm like, man, all the details, like just the specs that I was like, I just don't know that anymore. And he's like, cool, not a big deal. And so as I was kind of getting back into it, that's what they were shooting was 6.5 Creedmoor, and just seeing how well that round handled just the different positions and the distances that we were putting these hunters through. It was, a long range shooting course designed to help hunters be proficient. And by the end of day one, we have them hitting steel out to 1,000 yards. And it's really cool to be able to do that. And so I've really liked the 6.5. It's ammo that I can go buy almost anywhere, and it's super effective.
Nice. Well, if we ever wind up in the same space, I'll introduce you to my SR25 platform 6.5 Creedmoor, which that's a beautiful weapon, really. And it's a little, and no offense to Knights, but it's a little more refined than the product that you were using there.
Hey, brother, I don't think anyone's going to take offense to
that. Nice. Well, hey man, we're starting to get long in time, but I want to still bring us back around to what you're doing with Echelon and what Echelon and you are doing with Origin, because I'm not just saying this because I can. I literally have a can of Sour Apple Sniper in front of me at the moment.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Bro, this stuff is amazing.
Yeah, definitely our new favorite drink right now, JP.
I love it. That's what I love hearing. I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to have known Jocko since 2005, like I said earlier. And, working for him for Tasking and Bruiser, working for him at Trident, the training detachment that we had for all the West Coast SEAL teams, was just a lot of fun. And being on the outside, and, Jocko and Leif brought me on board as their first instructor 4 years ago. And I started off doing keynotes and workshops for companies and individuals that couldn't afford Jocko and Leif. And they told me, they're like, hey, we don't know how much work you're going to get. Nobody's calling us to book JP. Nobody knows who you are. They want Jocko, they want Leif and I. And I remember Jocko telling me that. I'm like, cool, yeah, no factor. That makes sense, And he's like, but, we'll have you on the podcast and we'll see if that generates some stuff. He goes, and the thing that'll work is probably, different companies and organizations that can't afford us, you'll be that option for them. And I said, that's great. I love it. And I remember joking with them. I'm like, cool, you guys should raise your prices really high so that nobody can afford you. I remember but Jocko and Leif were so busy, so booked that they had to. And that's why they knew they had to bring on another instructor. And then they brought on Dave Burke shortly afterwards, and we were growing the company. And it was cool it is cool when I sit back and look at the last 4 years, the progression and growth that we've done as an organization. And, Dave and I came on board just as instructors. We were just helping give keynotes and workshops. And we, as the company continued to grow, the vision of Jocko and Leif, knowing like, hey, we need to diversify, we need to expand, we need to deliver more impact, and we need to change what we're doing. And so that's when we started doing these hands-on scenario-based leadership training programs called field training exercises. And that's what I'm in charge of, is all the field training exercises. That's what experiential training is, where we put you in situations where there's going to be stress that's induced, and you're going to have to work through these different scenarios that help drive and dictate the leadership principles that we teach at Echelon Front. And then, Dave's been in charge of our LDAP program, which is our long range the long range leadership development alignment program. So it's where we partner with a client. It's more of like the consulting side, and we're doing multiple engagements. We're working specifically with key leaders and groups and individuals to kind of work through things and help change the culture and change the drive of a company, which is awesome that we're able to do that. And I'm just so thankful when I think about what I get to do every day. I mean, the training that I do through the field training exercise program is so similar to what I did in the SEAL teams when I was in charge of that training. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to think about what I get to do. And so if we're working with a company to do a field training exercise, what we do is we'll work with the team, and we do the classroom portion, and then the next day we're actually out in the field and they're conducting capture kill missions against my role players. And so we have these different scenarios designed, and so we'll give the group an intel package. We'll assign different roles and responsibilities of leadership, and they plan out the mission that they have to go conduct against my role players. And my role players are former and current SEALs, former and current, MARSOC members, Green Berets, SWAT guys. Like, I bring good role players out that are going to bring it. And we're using these military grade laser tag systems that we're able to actually control the situations and scenarios with. And it's really cool because then it also eliminates any possibility of injury with the client. So they're not getting shot up by airsoft. They're not getting shot up by paintball, which is cool. But the purpose of that type of training is not what we're trying to produce. We're not doing tactical training. Now, those tactics are important, but that's not what they're paying us for. They're paying us for leadership training. And so our focus is leadership training. And so while they're conducting these capture kill missions, these tribal engagement missions, these presence patrols, these hostage rescues, they are being put in scenarios where they have to use the laws of combat. They have to use the mindsets of victory to be successful. And as the day progresses and people rotate through all the different positions of leadership, they see what works and they see what doesn't work. They feel the burden of leadership. They see the voids of leadership, and they understand how they have to work through these different scenarios. And it's awesome. It's really cool to be able to see the progression of a group throughout the day. And so that's what my main focus is building that within an Echelon front. And we just launched the individual program. So it's similar to the muster. So let's say your company is smaller and you just don't have a large enough company or the budget to bring Jocko, Leif, or any of the members of Echelon Front out to your company. And so that's why they created the muster, which is a 2-day leadership event. But now we have the FTX program where it's open to individuals. So, a company can send 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their leaders to FTX 001. So it's going to be like the musters, FTX 001, 002. So we have FTX 001 that's going to be launched at the first quarter of 2021. We were going to do it in November of this year, but it was too close to the muster that we have in Dallas. And because COVID hit this year, we've had to shut down 2 of our musters. And so we really had to focus on making sure that muster 012 in Dallas was going to be effective. And, we really had to drive our focus as an organization on that one. That's going to be in Dallas the first week of December. And so we were like, okay, we'll push it back to 2021. So first quarter 2021, we're going to have FTX 001 and FTX 002 that's open for individuals and small groups to be able to sign up to. And that one is going to be awesome because we're going to send them classroom videos to follow along through our EF online platform. So it's like, okay, hey, you're doing this training in 3 months. You have 3 months to complete 8 hours of classroom online, just 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, watch these videos, take these tests. So that way, when they show up, we're not having to waste time in the classroom. We don't have to spend a full day in the classroom. They're going to have the knowledge, the skill set, and the base. And we do a quick refresher. And then it's going to be 2 full days of running these missions with Jocko, Leif, myself, and other members of the team. So not only are they going to get to do these training, it's going to be in a small group. It's like 30 people or less. And you're going to have that one-on-one access to Jocko and Leif over the 2 days. So it's pretty cool.
Dude, that sounds killer. I mean, that is like a no-brainer. Eric and I were talking about this earlier about how it wouldn't have made sense or even been financially possible for us to even like gather 10 guys up and do one, you know. But that platform just makes it accessible to anyone.
Yeah, it really does. And the other thing is that we're going to launch in 2021 is Cody and I, Cody Gandy is he's our field training exercise operations manager, which if you guys want me to connect you guys with him, he'd be good for the podcast as well. Him and his Marines,
Absolutely.
Him and his Marines were the first boots on the ground in Benghazi after the attacks went down.
Wow.
And so now he works with us. He runs all the backside of those operations, those scenarios. He's a stud, super squared away. I mean, he's a Marine, so of course he's squared away, right? And it's a physical specimen that you're like, man, nobody likes you. Go play somewhere else. But
well, JP, I would like to say that the individual FTXs is something that we are definitely interested in getting involved in. Most of our scenario-based training has been more like criminal assault with munitions and whatnot, but the experiential type model that you guys are doing is something that we have not been involved in. It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
so we're definitely going to have to get into at least one.
No, that would be awesome. And then, I kind of got distracted. I was talking about Cody, but what Cody and I are developing is we are also going to be launching it for law enforcement. So it'll be specific to law enforcement. And then from there, we're going to go to the military aspect as well. So we'll have a military version of it. We'll have a law enforcement version of it. And then we have the civilian side of it.
Nice.
That sounds incredible. We'll put links to everything that you're talking about on the show notes as well, JP.
Well,
as well as a link to Origin where you can buy your Sour Apple Sniper.
Yeah, I know we want to talk about that, and maybe I can come on again in the future. But
for sure. No, I feel like we scratched the surface, man, because there's a lot that we could talk about. Jiu-jitsu for one, and we definitely would be more than happy to have you back again for sure, man.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and I think it's been a good day of conversations with you guys. I appreciate the opportunity, and I know we'll rap about it more, but I mean, something that's important to me that I want people to be able to check out is, go see what Origin's doing. Go to originmaine.com. ORIGINMAINE.com. What Pete Roberts and Brian Littlefield and Amanda Roberts are doing, and the rest of that team. I mean, these are hardworking Americans that are fighting to bring manufacturing back to America. And
it's a big deal.
Incredible. It is a huge deal what they're doing. They are fighting. And
you may not know this, but you just put Evosec 10 in when you check out and you get 10% off your order.
There you go.
Boom.
There you go. Yeah.
If you want a discount on your Sour Apple Sniper, Evosec 10.
And that's it's just so humbling to be a part of what they're doing. It's just absolutely incredible. And so the fact that I have a signature energy drink is just crazy.
It's awesome.
I'll take it. I enjoy it. It's awesome, but it's, I remember Jocko told me when I started working with him and Leif, he said, "Hey, it's going to be a fast ride. If you want to be a part of it, hold on." And I was like, "Hey, anywhere you're going, boss, I'll go with you." And to know that I'm now a part of what Origin does and that you guys are part of what Origin does, and the fact that people are listening to this podcast and they're going to go order a gi or a rash guard or a case of Sour Apple Sniper or Dax Savage or, order some of the mole protein or the krill oil, whatever they do. If they go order one thing, they're supporting America. They're supporting an American-made product. And what Origin and Jocko Fuel are doing is they are bringing things back to America. They are helping Americans learn that we don't have to be reliant on other countries. And when other people see what Pete and Brian and the whole Origin and Jocko Field team are doing, they're going to be inspired to do the same. And the more people we get desiring and fighting to bring things back to America, the better we are as a nation.
Man, nobody could put it any better, JP. And I would say that before we even did anything with Origin, they were our favorite geese. And it's that what they make, there's just nothing touches it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing products.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, I think we better close it out because we could do this forever. This has been awesome. Just spectacular. So we'll definitely have you back and we'll cover some more material, man.
Sounds good. Brian, Aaron, Eric, I appreciate it. Thank you for what you guys do now for Americans. Thank you for your guys' service. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your guys' podcast.
No doubt.
Thank you so much, JP. Incredible show, brother.
Right.
Thank you.
Hey, guys. Wow.
Man, incredible interview, man. What an awesome, humble guy, man. And very supportive of what we're doing, too.
Wow. Yeah. And just, I mean, gave excellent service, continues to give of himself to the community. Just incredible dude, man.
I always like these really experienced guys, how humble they are. Again, it seems to come back to that the most experienced guys have had the ego knocked out of them way too many times.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, no, and they, that's always what we've seen at the range too. The guy that's talking a big game and saying this and that is the guy who's probably doesn't have the skill or the background, and the quiet, humble dude goes out there and smokes everybody. So that's a recurring trait we see in these kind of guys, and it's something to aspire to. Remaining humble, man.
Absolutely. Very, very cool guest. Hope to have him back soon, as he alluded to himself.
Yeah, no, very cool. Well, Aaron, you want to kick off accountability, man?
Let's do it. And I promise I'll do it quick this time, guys. So I have had every week lately, I've been hitting 3 technique classes at jiu-jitsu because, as I've said before, I'm working on testing for my combatives belt. And, man, I keep feeling stronger and stronger. Eric, you can attest to this. There's a lot of details in jits. And if you miss something, it just doesn't work right. So I'm getting stoked about that. It's working out for me, going a lot more this time around.
Bro, I'm proud of you, man. That pumps me up, brother.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So for the range session this week, me and my buddy Justin went. Now, he is basically a new shooter, and with barely any shooting under his belt, man, he has a natural ability. And, man, I'm real proud of him. Shot really well. So now for the drill of the week, that was the 5 and 7 yard portion of the FBI qual. Wasn't that right, Eric? Making sure I did the right drill.
That's right, buddy. Yeah, you got it.
So I did that 3 times as usual, and I had all of them clean but one, and that was one where one of those rounds just went about 1/4 of an inch out of the bottle. That's all right. The rest were clean, and they were all under par, and again, about a second under par, so that continuing theme going a little bit too fast. But I'm pretty pleased with those results. So, and just for fun, guys, in the spirit of having JP on and his service overseas, under Jocko and in Task Force Bruiser, I brought my rattle canned AR out of the safe this afternoon. Nice. Now, have either of you done a rattle can on one of your rifles?
Have not.
I have not either.
You got to get with that because it's fun. So, long story short, it was one of my first really good ARs, and it's a BCM 14.5 inch the normal GI profile, but it's a hammer forged barrel with the 1-in-7 twist. And another neat thing about it, it's my old pre-band Wyndham Maine Bushmaster lower that was part of a rifle that my wife got me. And one more thing, it's got a really cool, kind of with the overseas flare, it's got a cool B5 SOP mod stock on it. So I'm digging it. And last thing that's these days a little old school, it's got a 12-inch Centurion Arms quad rail. So I think
nice.
this would look pretty nice downrange. So I just thought I'd share that. And
you need to get a picture on the gram since you're talking about it. So
sure, I will. And the cool thing is, Krylon. When you guys do yours, what you need to grab the 3 colors that you can do a little search online. The specific colors that the guys overseas use from Krylon. There's 3 of them, of course, to get that desert camo going. But man, I'm talking too much. Who's going next? You ready to go, Brian?
Yeah, I'll take it up, man. So this last week I was actually a light workout week. I only got 3 CrossFit sessions in, but they were a little extreme. And they're definitely pushing us pretty hard right now. But it definitely, it's still within my 3 to 5 is the range that I try to hit. And that's, I try to not do less than 3. I'm still on a JITS hiatus, even though the gym's open, because I have some other, I don't want to call them priorities, commitments that I have to take care of right now. And I just do not have the extra days in the week right now. So I'm going to have to park that a little bit longer. And this does have to do with me flying. And yes, flying has taken a big hit in my jiu-jitsu career. But again, it's the direction I'm headed in. Once I get through this next phase, I will definitely be back on the mats without a doubt, because that is something I want to continue to work and grow. But on the shooting end, Aaron, I was able to actually shoot the drill in person with Eric.
Yep.
And we know that just kills you. So we love to bring it up. But we got all set up, and I met Eric at my range, and he goes, "You want to go on that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he pushes the timer, and I pull my gun out, and it goes click, and I move my finger, 3 more times or whatever the round count was, and he just looks at me like, I'm like, "Dude, I'm dry firing it." he thought I'd forgot to chamber around or something.
I did.
I'm like, no, I did that on purpose. But
you said I was taking my own advice, man.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's what we're talking about is shooting it dry fire the drill, and then run the drill. And that has been working really well for me, actually. I have actually seen positive results out of that. So I've been pretty happy about that. So, but the thing that's really cool to me is, I did do a little bit of shooting, there, but the first time through, shot clean, all under par. And man, that was just great, because it's awesome to know that you've developed your skills to a point where it's not that they don't perish, and it's not like it'd been weeks since I'd shot either, but where you can come up cold and actually run a drill and kill it. And that's the point. That's why we do this. Because those skills get polished. That iron sharpens iron. You just keep doing it. And if you stay after it, you're going to see a huge difference at the end of whether it's 3 months or 4 months or a year. If you're shooting some type of stress drill weekly, and that's what we recommend. We may not post shows weekly, but man, there's a ton of drills out there that we've prescribed, and there's a ton other out there that are available for free. And, just keep doing it. And we all know ammo's expensive and hard to get right now. So what we're doing, is we're like, again, we just doing these 2 little stages of that drill, so it wasn't quite so many rounds. But in our other drills, we're doing more draws and less trigger pulls. So instead of like draw and fire 5 rounds, and when we're doing other practice, we'll probably shoot less bill drills. We'll draw and fire 1, do that 5 times, and see how consistently you can get under 2 seconds. Which that's a good benchmark, by the way. A lot of guys can do it in a second and a half. I'm not that guy.
Well, from concealment, man,
but
under 2 seconds is good, man.
Yeah, and if you work on that, those are things that you'll gain. So there's my accountability for the week, and as always, get out there and shoot. So how about you, Eric?
Thanks a lot, Brian. And so I'll start with the drill as well, since you were on that topic. Yeah, it was actually a surprise because originally you had said, "Hey, man, I'm busy with the plane today. I probably won't be able to shoot, but go ahead and go out to the range anyway and shoot." And then you called me when I was maybe 10 minutes out and said, "Hey, man, I'm close, man. You want me to come meet you?" And I said, "Yeah, hell yeah, man. Come on out." And so it was awesome being able to shoot it together. And again, this isn't a super hard drill, but it's really good fundamentals. And again, we've been messing with this FBI qual, and it's just a good overall set of drills. So I was able to shoot it under par and clean as well. And just another good reminder of what Brian said is that, we dry fire on a regular basis. This is part of my accountability too. I've only had 2 dry fire sessions this week. I think we've all been maybe slacking a little bit on our dry fire because of other skills we're trying to work hard on, but that's okay. I was thinking about, as you said, Brian, you kind of beating up on yourself about jiu-jitsu, but hey, man, periodization is a part of our life. It always will be. We can't always hit everything perfectly. It's impossible. So you're getting after it with your flying, and that's cool.
Nice. Thank you, man.
Yep, no problem. So as far as jiu-jitsu this week, I've had 3 sessions, one of which was private with Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. And the other 2 were at Jiu-Jitsu Dynamics. We've been working on the Top Lock Guard Series arm bars, which, man, for folks out there, if you don't work the Top Lock version of setting up arm bars, check it out. You can find it online. Probably John Danaher is probably one of the best examples of that series, so check that out. It has been awesome being back there. I mean, when I walk in there and see my Jits family, it just brings joy to the heart for sure. As far as my home workouts, only 2 this last week, but that's because of periodization. I'm working hard in jiu-jitsu, so I gotta recover too. So I decided to let off my home workouts to allow for that recovery. Strength and conditioning basics, kettlebells. I'm squatting heavier again, which is feeling really good on my back. So that's been pretty cool. As far as another aspect of a little bit of accountability, I made sure all my ham radio batteries were charged this week because you just never know when you need those. So I policed that up and checked my ham gear. So that was kind of fun. Now, as far as the drill this week, I guess that moves us into what we're going to prescribe this week. So it's kind of funny, Aaron, you brought up that carbine. And for some reason, I've been thinking about switching up drills to the point it's like, you know what, there's no reason why we shouldn't be prescribing carbine drills. What do you guys think?
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
Yeah, let's just switch it.
That's not a bad idea at all.
Let's just switch it up a little bit. And so many years ago, I took Trident Concepts carbine course under Jeff Gonzalez. And this real basic but dynamic drill is easy for most people to set up. I mean, everybody may not have 50 yards that they can get to, but we'll just prescribe it and see how many people can get out there and shoot it. But it is a modified Navy qual. Again, a little hit to JP Dinnell being a a Navy SEAL as well, along with Jeff Gonzalez. So essentially, it's 15 rounds. You have 3 magazines with 5 rounds in each at 50 yards on an 8-inch circle. So I mean, you can use a pie plate or the center of a IDPA target, whatever you like. The par time is 25 seconds. You start from a low ready. From standing, fire 5 rounds. Reload, emergency reload that is. Go to kneeling, 5 rounds. Reload. Drop to the prone, 5 rounds. It's actually a fun drill and a little more challenging than you would gather. But I will post the full scoring in the show notes. But for now, 25 seconds for that drill. What do you guys think?
Yeah, sounds fun. For some reason, that never occurred to me in all our pistol focus to throw out some carbine drills. That's great, Eric.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and you can run your Krylon gun on that one.
I think I will, since we're talking Navy SEALs here, the Navy SEAL drill. Hey, real quick, guys, I'll ask you this on the air, because I've been talking to Brian the last few days about getting a Gen 517 MOS so I can get into the optic game. But I'm also going to get a 19 here pretty soon, too. So I want a couple of those, and I'm going to send them off to Boresight Solutions to have a little bit of work done, kind of have a couple of fancy guns, and one for competition and one for carry.
Gucci.
Yes, Gucci guns.
Those are
Glocks.
Gucci Glocks. Yep.
What's that, Eric?
I said those are Gucci Glocks.
Yeah, man.
I dig them.
I've been looking forward to doing something like that. So going to go ahead and start doing that. But guys, do the like Gen 3, Gen 4 sights still work in the Gen 5s?
Yeah.
To my knowledge, there's no difference in the sight dovetails.
Oh, awesome. Because, man, I've got several good, some Frank Proctor sights, some Heine, some Ameriglow. I've kind of got them ready to roll for that the 19. I'm going to run that as my carry gun. So, well, that's about it. I forgot to ask that earlier in my section.
Well, I love my new Gen 5 that Brian hooked me up with through his buddy. So much so that I think that may end up being my primary carry. I think I'm going to do the same thing, Aaron. I'm not in any hurry, but I love that Gen 5 so much. I think I'm going to change it to my primary.
Oh, bro, you're talking about how much you dig that Gen 5 is what drove me over the edge. Man, I still need to get a LTT Elite 92 from Ernest Langdon's group, but I think I'm going to get this Glock first. So
cool.
Right on.
Well, you guys ready to say good night?
I think so.
I think it's time. We ran long, but man, was it worth it.
Great show.
Well worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Well, you guys have a good night.
Good times.
You too, Aaron.
All right.
Take care, Brian.
Take care, guys.